Well, hello, and welcome, I suppose, to my Immortals Phoenix Rising review. Won't really be much to say, not like my half an hour review of Assassin's Creed. That was kind of ranty. Yeah, so Immortals Phoenix Rising, I suppose I'll just get this straight off the bat. If you like Zelda Breath of the Wild, you're probably not going to listen to anything I say, because what I'm about to say is kind of similar to Breath of the Wild, although I will probably say this does stuff a little better than that. But yeah, so when I guess story-wise, it is what it is. It's alright. It's not going to win awards. It's not even... It's whatever. It's just, you're immortal, save the gods from a titan, and win. It's as generic and cookie-cutter as it gets. The banter between Zeus and Prometheus sometimes is not funny, and I feel like it's trying to be, but most of the time it's kind of alright. It's pretty much just when Prometheus is telling the story, and Zeus just butts in, and pretty much the running gag is that Zeus is a drunkard, which is whatever, but eh. Yeah, there's not a lot that I can say about the story, really. It is what it is. You probably find it enjoyable enough, especially with the characters of Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, and Athena. They're kind of alright, they are. Although the Ares one is kind of a bit, again, not my kind of comedy. I won't really spoil what it is, but it's not really my kind of comedy. It's funny at first, because it's, oh, I get it, God of War. But, not the game God of War, but obviously he is the God of War. But other than that, like I say, this game tries to be a little too funny, and I feel like it's just flat in its jokes sometimes. Yeah, I can't really say much about the story, because it is what it is. Combat, I actually kind of like the combat in this more than I did Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Because again, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it was just boiled down to light attack, heavy attack, and then obviously your special one-use move abilities. So in terms of just the base combat, it was just light and heavy attacks, and then block and parry, and that was it. In this, it doesn't really do much more than that, but it does take it a little bit of a step further in that you can kind of juggle enemies, and you can kind of stunlock them if you play well. So there's that little hint of skill-based gameplay. Like I say, if you're just good enough, you can make it feel pretty good. Not as good as Devil May Cry, obviously. It's not that levels of juggling and combos and awesome combat, but it does take it from Valhalla slightly towards that direction by taking one step, so it is quite nice, but again, for what it is, it's fairly basic. Excuse me. Yeah, that's pretty much the combat. There's not really much to say again with that. It is just as relatively basic as it gets. The open world, because it is a Zelda Breath of the Wild kind of clone, and this is where this can end because I'll actually show it off. I mean, first of all, graphics wise, obviously it's not the most realistic, which it doesn't need to be. A game like this kind of shows off why you don't need realistic graphics. You know, you can still go down the cartoony route. This does it very well. I do like the aesthetic look to this game, considering it is in Greek mythology. Again, doesn't need to go down the completely realistic route, but it does go down a artistic route, and it is quite nice. And I will get to the management in a minute. The map, like I say, it's fairly big enough. Like it's big enough, but it's not too big. It's not. Like they're pretty much split off into, what, 4 sections. So pretty much encircling this, they split off roughly in the middle, as you can clearly see with the rough lines. But the difference between here again is roughly this line here, something like that. But yes, like I say, once you're in the location, doing the quests for like one god for the story, the small locations of the maps do feel big enough so that when you move somewhere else and the visuals change, it does kind of feel like you've gone somewhere new. So again, I'm going to compare a lot of this to either Breath of the Wild or Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because it was the Assassin's Creed Odyssey devs who made this. But compared to the map in Valhalla, Valhalla's map was way too large and way too expansive. It was mostly empty 90% of the time. Which, again, you're kind of just running through fields and not doing a lot. So it kind of just gets a little boring after a while. Whereas with this map, like I say, because it's not... Again, because you're in full, very small locations, again, what goes on inside these locations is still Breath of the Wild based bullshit. I will admit, this is where I will say this game gets better than Breath of the Wild, personally. Partly, and then definitely. So, these things here are vaults. So again, think the sort of vaults in Breath of the Wild where you walk into them and then it gives you the dungeon thing where you solve a puzzle or you fight some enemies and do an arena thing. Imagine that. That's basically what these are, and it because this game is pretty much a rip-off of Breath of the Wild, it takes it the same route. So again, obviously there are puzzle vaults and then combat vaults. And sometimes combat vaults have a harder mode, so once you've done them, there are chests in every vault, at least one chest, sometimes maybe two, I believe. But in the combat vaults, if you want to get that chest, once you've done the vault, you then have to flick a switch to fight something a lot harder to then beat that to get the chest. And the chest almost always contains like a piece of armor or some upgrade materials, which I guess is quite nice. But that's basically what the vaults are. Again, it suffers the same problem that Breath of the Wild does, is that it's all aesthetically the same. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it was mostly like a sort of the futuristic, techie, blue dungeons. I mean, again, I didn't play them all, so I can't say. But in this, it's just the same. I mean, you go into Tartaros. If that means anything to anyone. Basically, the aesthetic to these vaults is you've got a starry night sky, and obviously the textures of the rocks and platforms and everything are all the same. So again, it does suffer the same problem that Breath of the Wild does, in that it's the same looking vaults, back to back to back. Not one is different. I mean, they're all visually different in that different platforms, different puzzles to solve, obviously, but it uses all the same assets to build each vault, which to me is just a lazy way of doing things, and I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. If there was a few vaults per location and there were really puzzles or actual arena dungeons, and there was a few per location and they were specifically designed, you know, with, say, the god and the location in mind, or like a Greek god or something that you was fighting in that vault, you know, something just based around them, it would have just been aesthetically better, and it would have reduced the amount of collectible content in this game, which again, Breath of the Wild does suffer from. But yeah, in terms of its collectibles, this is where I say it's better than Breath of the Wild, because from my memory, and again, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I didn't do everything and I wasn't going to. But from memory, Breath of the Wild pretty much just had the tiny little green things. I forgot the bloody name of them. The Koroks, I think, where you get the Korok seeds and you can upgrade like your inventory space. I think health and something else. No, health was the vaults, wasn't it? Again, don't quote me on it, but if you know where I'm coming from, basically you had to find and solve these like mini puzzles on the land to find these Korok seeds, and you could upgrade like your inventory and stuff. And then when you went into the vaults, you could upgrade, I believe, stamina or health. So as far as I'm aware, those were the only two ways to get upgrades the entire game. The only two ways that you could get upgrades. Whereas in this, I suppose it's only slightly better in the fact that to get health upgrades you collect these ambrosia, which are just littered all over the map. They're not in dungeons. So if you find one and you're next to it, you just climb or whatever, however you get to it. It's mostly climbing. And then you just pick it up, get an X amount, go back to your base, increase your health. So that's only where it gets better than Breath of the Wild, kind of. And then you also have like mini challenges like stepping on a pedestal and then racing as quickly as you can to a finish line to again get some more upgrade points to upgrade other stuff. So again, that's where, and then you get these music ones, which is you interact with a small Leah and then take it to the big one and it gives you again some more upgrade materials. So again, because a lot more of this is actually on the world map, it feels less tedious in a way, just because you can run from one to the other, and they do kind of show on the map. The only way to get them on the map, and I suppose if I want the devs to listen to anything that I do actually say about this game, is the fact that if they could actually update this game to change how you find the collectibles around the map, because when you go to where is it? When you go to these statues of the gods, you're meant to climb them, you interact with it, it defogs it, so like this I haven't defogged yet, but it's fogged like that, you interact with it and then it just defogs it. But then the only way to find the collectibles is to hold R3, and then you've essentially got to, I mean, you can see like glowing dots in front of you. I mean, obviously I can't really do it here because I've probably taken them all. But basically, like if there was, oh, well yeah, conveniently this is showing it off actually. This doesn't really count because it's pretty much behind that wall. But this is the only way to find them, is to sort of do this to find them. Again, most of them you'll see because they do glow. They do have a shine to them. Again, I can't really show that off because I've pretty much taken them, like imagine that sort of light there, but it just flickers at you. So some of them you can find pretty much however. The problem is most of them are inside vaults where you have to solve like mini puzzles. So because of that, this is what you have to do to find them. And it gets a little annoying after, yeah, like that one right there, just above the mark, you can just see the faint glow. Now like those ones are, that's how you find them, but then most of them are like hidden underground where you've got to solve like a mini puzzle to find them, and it's mostly the chests. So personally, if the devs ever listen to anything like this, I would say don't do this in your future games. I mean, again, I'm going to compare this to Assassin's Creed Odyssey or any Assassin's Creed. Don't do this, because this gets tedious after a while, and there are going to be people who want 100% games like this. I'm not one of them, because I'm not a fan of mindless collectibles. I'm not. But there are going to be people out there who will want 100% a game like this, and for me personally, I don't like missing items and having to slowly comb through. Having to slowly comb through a map here whilst looking at a second monitor or my phone, zoomed in to try and find what I'm missing. I would just prefer if you uncovered the fog of the map, it then just uncovered everything in the area. Like that would just be so much better. I mean, again, I would still complain with how much crap there is to do. Excuse me, I would still complain about how much crap there is to do, but it would just be easier for those who would want to do it, instead of having to slowly comb through stuff you can't find because it's hidden underground somewhere. That's the only like major complaint I have with this game. So I suppose if the devs could update this game or any next game they make, just don't do it. So in terms of weapons and armor, ignore this. In terms of weapons and armor, where this game improves over Valhalla is the fact that you get these items up here, these adamantine, I believe they're called. Yellow is to upgrade potions and how many arrows you can have. Blue is for everything, I believe, so it increases your armor and weapons. Red then combines with blue to upgrade your weapons, and purple combines with blue to upgrade your armor. So like, I can upgrade my sword because I need 8,000 blue and 440 red, and to upgrade armor I need 5,000 blue and 770 purple. So compared to Valhalla, it's better, because you don't need to go out of your way to find every goddamn chest under the sun to find a weapon that you might like, or find armor that you might like, to then go out of your way again to find more upgrades, to go inside what you want, to upgrade everything. It's all universal. The only difference between your weapons and armors is what buffs it gives you. Like this one gives you plus 20%, 26% defense, and when you get 4 upgrades it then unlocks the second. I do like that over where it just increases the base stat and it does nothing else besides gives you bonuses. I prefer that over what Valhalla did, just because Valhalla you have to go out of your way to find armor. Again, you still have to do it in this, but at least the stats are the same throughout. The thing that I don't agree with, again, like Valhalla, the only way to upgrade your armor, so blue, you get yellow only by looting chests and yellow shard clusters. So you find these yellow things in mini clusters, you hit them twice and you get 70. That's the only way to get yellow, and yellow only upgrades how many potions you can carry and how many arrows you can carry. I mean, as you can clearly see, I never upgraded how many arrows you can carry. Blue you get from everything, so found from defeating common enemies, looting chests, and from blue cluster shard clusters. So because you're always fighting enemies in this, you get a crap ton. And if you also do like world bosses, well, not world bosses, but they were like unique encounter enemies in this game, which give you a crap ton of blue adamantine shards, which is why I was able to max upgrade my axe and somewhat my sword and somewhat my armor. And again, not my bow, because the bow is useless. And again, red you can only get from defeating unique enemies. So again, those unique like bosses that you find, I'm fairly certain they still give you blue, but again, they might just give you red. And again, because you're fighting, it rewards your weapons, which is nice. It's still kind of annoying because they're not shown on the map. You kind of just have to run into them. Again, I would like to have marked them on the map at least, but I mean, I ran into quite a few of them, so I guess they're not that uncommon. And then purple. Purple is where it gets really annoying, because that's the only way you can upgrade your armor. And the only way you can get purple is by looting epic chests and purple shard clusters. Now, at least, this game does tell you what an epic chest is. So these are just your chests. So that's how you find like your blue or yellow adamantine shards. This is then a guarded chest, so it's basically just a regular chest, it's just you have to fight enemies to unlock the chest. This one with the armor on it is your epic chest, where you have to solve like a mini puzzle to open up a door to get the chest, which will always give you either armor or a weapon. Or it will change your armor's appearance or weapon's appearance, but it will always give you an armor or a weapon, and then also give you the purple shards and stuff. The problem is, if my maths is correct, the amount of epic chests I would have to open to upgrade my just this armor once, I believe is 20. So I think you get 40 purple shards a chest. So obviously 770, you'd need 800. So you would need to open 400 chests. You need to open 20 chests to upgrade your armor once. But if you find the shards, and only the shards, you would need 11, because they give you 70 per big cluster shard. But again, they're kind of few and far between. I've only ever really destroyed like maybe 12 of them in the entire game, and I don't know if they respawn when you reload. But still, like, so you've got to still go out of your way to either find hidden shards and destroy 11 of them, or do 20 chests of mini puzzles that are kind of just boring and obnoxious after a while to get one single upgrade. Then to get the next upgrade, obviously it goes to 880, which is what, 22? So I would then need to get 22 chests. So that's 20 chests. Then it's 22 chests for the next upgrade, and the upgrade for this, that's already 44 chests. You can see the problem that this game very quickly runs into. And again, the only reason why I have my axe upgraded is because it's the only way you can stun lock enemies. Again, that's another thing I didn't mention with the combat. Like in Sekiro, where you have like a stamina bar, or maybe even Neo, I don't know. But you have a stamina bar, and if you hit them with the axe, you fill up the stamina meter. When it's full, they go into like a dazed animation, and then you keep wailing at them until it reduces, and then you can fill it up again. If you perfect parry, it increases it a bit. If you don't perfect parry, but you can parry, you still negate all damage, but you don't give them stun damage. And that's the only reason why I upgraded the axe, is because the axe is the only weapon that can stun lock. The main sword doesn't even do that. So I just maxed that as quickly as I could, because, I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, an entire mechanic that's locked to one weapon and not sort of like comboing with the axe and the sword. So yeah, just because it's all axe, I just wanted to max that out as quickly as possible. And yeah, so that's that. It does get kind of annoying, and again, these are also locked off. These are locked off to puzzles, they're locked off. Zeus's Lightning for stamina, which locks off to the vaults. Again, Ambrosia is always on the main map, and that'll upgrade your health. The Coins of Charon, I probably butchered that name, upgrade your skills, which they're kind of alright. So these are your main skills, like obviously sword launcher, so that's what I meant by like juggling. And then power strike finisher, so I mean that just increases your combo meter. Stealth, I mean obviously stealth is stealth. And just stuff like that. So it does have some pretty decent base skills. You then obviously have some godly powers, which are kind of nice. I mean, I haven't even bothered unlocking them because I kind of cheesed this entire game because I upgraded Heracles' strength first. No, I didn't. I upgraded Phosphor's attack. Phosphor is a side quest, you have to find him first. But you do get an upgrade that allows you to summon a decoy, which you can use to activate grates to do puzzles. Biggest problem, that breaks puzzles half the time. Because it weighs, I believe, so there are two different types of weights. There's the feather, as you can see, which takes pretty much anything to activate, or you've then got like a stone icon, which takes something much heavier, and that Phosphor's clone on a stone icon does half of it. So you only need to use Phosphor's clone and then find a regular stone to just completely do a puzzle. So you can essentially skip half of the puzzles in this entire game by just using Phosphor's clone. I kind of wish that wasn't the case, because again, it just breaks puzzles. Like, there were even some puzzles like at the end of the game before the final boss that I swear I broke. Because there's like wind direction and the wooden crates move and there are lasers, so they break. And I like genuinely my first thought wasn't to solve the puzzle. It was, oh well, everything's in place, but if I move the wooden box to where it needs to go, because there was a wooden box already on the plate, if I moved it, it would hit a laser. Then there was another wooden box that I needed to move with the wind to hit its platform, so obviously that one would be destroyed, but that one would be in place. So instead of thinking out of the box of how to solve the puzzle, I just thought, fuck it. I walked up to the box that was next to the laser, put Phosphor's clone down, moved the wind in that direction, and because Phosphor's clone is a stone, the box just hit it and didn't move. So I'm fairly certain I broke that puzzle. Or that was the answer to that puzzle, which is annoying. Puzzles shouldn't require skill upgrades. It's one of the two. If it requires this, that's annoying, because that's the end of the game, and you can't get this upgrade at the end of the game, because you can only get this upgrade at your base. So when you're in the final dungeon, like, that's it, you're fucked. If you needed it. But I would assume you don't. But I just did it that way, because whatever. And then the other way to kind of break things a little bit is heavy lifting, which obviously, as you can see, to lift heavy boxes, you're not really meant to be able to do that. Again, I haven't done all the vaults. I would assume at some point you need to, but again, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't lock off puzzle answers to skills. Just flat out, you shouldn't. Because again, I might want to upgrade I might want to buy my weapon stuff from the gods first and ignore these throwing or phosphor abilities without realizing, oh, I need them anyway. Again, if you're going to 100% this game, you're going to get these upgrades regardless at some point. So it's not going to matter too much, but it still shouldn't be locked off to something you buy. It should be something you unlock or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't really suppose there's anything else that I can really mention about this game. I mean, that's kind of it. Like I say, the story's alright. The combat is, like I say, it's kind of alright. It's better than Valhalla, but it's not saying much. It just takes one step in the right direction. Oh, and the pre-order DLC quest was complete. It wasn't good. But again, it was pre-order DLC. What do you want me to expect? It was on-disc DLC, it was. But yeah, so I mean, overall, is this game worth it? I mean, I suppose if you're a fan of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and you like really love that game, knock yourself out. This game will be pretty alright for you. It'll be pretty fun. It might be the best game you've ever played. Could be better than Breath of the Wild. Who knows? I mean, I would say it is, just because, like I say, some of the collectibles are on the map rather than just in the samey looking dungeons. But yeah, so, like I say, if you love Breath of the Wild, knock yourself out. If you like Ubisoft whoring games like I used to, this game pretty much broke me at this point. After Valhalla and this game, I'm done with Ubisoft games. I may get Far Cry just because I won't suspect that game to do this route. Even if it does, it's a first-person shooter, so shoot people in the head, beat the game. But yeah, I'm done with Ubisoft games at this point. If this is their quality now. Yeah, so if you like this more collectathon Ubisoft stuff, again, knock yourself out. I guess it'll be pretty fun. But if you're reserved and you're thinking, is this worth it? Well, I mean, Cyberpunk is out, what, in like 2 days from today? Because today's Tuesday, the 8th, I believe? Yep, Tuesday the 8th. So, I mean, obviously, if anyone sees this before then, obviously not. That game will probably be better. I mean, I'm not expecting that game to be massively... Well, I'm expecting that game to be pretty good, especially after Valhalla and this. But I don't think Cyberpunk's gonna do anything that I haven't already played before. But that review will come as and when I play and finish that game. But as of right now, Immortals Fenyx Rising, I guess only buy it pretty soon right now if you love Breath of the Wild or collectathons. If you're on the fence or you're kind of should I, shan't I would say wait. Just because, again, if you're not a fan of this collectathon stuff, this game is still kind of worth playing, kind of, for the story and combat. So only really play this if, well, at around the, how much is it right now? Like £55 brand new, I think. I would say at £25 this is probably a steal. So about half off, maybe 30 at a push if you're kind of interested. If you really don't care and you're just, I'll play this one day, then I mean, I guess around the £20 mark, this would definitely be worth it. Because if you don't do any of this, it'll probably last you about 16-ish to 20-ish hours. Because I think I did it in 22 and I spent 4 hours getting all the collectibles, or as much as I could in this one location, just to get as many upgrades as I could. So I beat this in about 18 hours. So give or take 20 hours to 24, depending on how you want to play. This is how long that is. So I can kind of recommend it, but only in those scenarios. But yeah, I would definitely say this is better than Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yeah, I would. I would say it's better than Valhalla. I mean, the only thing Valhalla has going for it is the fact that you don't need to do any of the side content to level up because you get XP like it's fucking sweets. So you will be able to beat that game eventually without touching any of the side content. This game, can you? I mean, I would say yes, it's just that bosses are going to feel a little more grindy, just because you can't pretty much stun lock them every 2 seconds like I can with my axe at max level. But if you don't mind somewhat grindy bosses, then, I mean, again, this game would be pretty worth it. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I'd recommend it. It is what it is. It doesn't do anything new. It's kind of just now, this is the definitive version of Ubisoft games, to be honest. And to be honest, I would prefer Ubisoft to stop making games like this. This is, for me personally, not how games should be made. I like my... If they went back more towards something like, say, Assassin's Creed 2-ish, where you have, like, moreover a couple cities to explore, with some stuff to do and side quests. That's the main keyword here, side quests. Oh yeah, this game does have side quests, by the way. They're not great. There's like maybe 10 to do, which is 10 more than Assassin's Creed Valhalla has. Yeah, I would prefer a more condensed world with well-written story and characters, and side quests and content, and collectibles, of course. We always need them. Games have just had them for years at this point. We'll always need them, but the main content and side content is what you want to play it for. This kind of stuff is just for those who want to do some exploration and reward themselves for going out and exploring. But otherwise, this is not my kind of game anymore. Well, it never was, to be honest. But yeah, I hope I've gone over as much as I have from what I think is good and bad about this. But yeah. So again, no review score. Don't do review scores. I think they're pointless. Because I would give this game like a solid 6.5, which to a lot of people would probably think this game is terrible. But to me, it's above average. It's not great, but there is some fun to be had, should you find it and want it. But otherwise, again, if not, don't bother. So that's why I don't give games review scores, because they're pointless. I prefer to just tell you what it does and what it doesn't do, and I guess throw my opinion in based on what, you know, do with this information with what you will. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you find any of this informational for yourself. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in probably Cyberpunk. I'm not playing it when it comes out immediately. Just because 1, everyone and their mother under the sun is going to be playing it, and 2, I've played like 4 or 5 open world games back to back now. I kind of want to take a break, so I kind of don't really have an idea of what I'm doing. I might play a couple of Halo games, to be honest, just because they're one-day games. But yeah, I'll see you whenever I play next. I hope you've enjoyed this, and peace. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta.